Right, I want to return to The Voice, that big event, of course, last night in Adelaide. 25 days to go before we all vote. The intensity has certainly increased, particularly when it comes to Yes campaign activity. You saw there in the editorial that vision filmed by Senator Alex Antic. He was abused by a mob of Yes campaigners. He was called a racist dog, a racist pig, and a whole lot that's worse than that. I can't even say on air, as I said. Joining me now to discuss this and more. First panel for the night, Herald Sun columnist, senior writer Patrick Carline, Sky News host Caleb Bond. Gents, I'll start with you if I can, Patrick. A huge scene we saw there in Adelaide. You had these screaming protesters outside with a whole range of obscenities from the Yes campaign. Inside, of course, I played the footage, Jacinta Price in tears, talking about the horrific abuse she has personally experienced and seen and witnessed in Alice Springs and other areas regarding women and children. Give me a sense, 25 days out now, how you read the public mood.
Well, look, those scenes today outside certainly were dreadful, weren't they? And you make that contrast rather well with what was being said inside, which was poignant, thoughtful and meaningful. And you refer to that word racism and racist, which seems to be the ugly and easy label that you know, elements in the Yes camp have been pushing the whole way through. And I think, look, it's obviously an ugly word to use. It's a lazy word to use. But more importantly, it's not going to win one person over to a Yes vote. And I think it would actually push. And, you know, it's patronising and it pushes people away from the Yes campaign. And I think that's been true all the way through the campaign, at least, you know, back to May. This word racism and being racist just keeps popping up all the time. And it's very off-putting.
Yeah, I think it is such a terrible word. You use it with great caution. Use it, I think, based on fact. I think thrown around as a slur, it degrades everybody, particularly in this debate. Caleb, this afternoon I picked up something from Warren Mundine's social media feed. The Communist Party of Australia are very much using this voice to recruit. That's a concern in itself.
Yes, and it gets a bit weirder than that because the Communist Party of Australia supports The Voice. Then there's another mob called the Australian Communist Party, and they actually oppose The Voice. Now, we saw on the weekend people getting around in Melbourne and Sydney at the various marches, waving communist flags with the hammer and sickle on them. And it wasn't, no major point was made about that, but the hammer and sickle, of course, is a symbol under which 6 million people were deliberately killed by Stalin in the Soviet Union. You know, we rightly revile the swastika for what was done in the Holocaust. A similar number of people, 6 million Jews killed by the Nazi regime. You had 6 million people killed under the hammer and sickle, but that goes totally unnoticed. That's totally fine. And when you've got all these fringe groups, be it the Communist Party of Australia, be it those people who were there last night out the front of the No campaign in South Australia, be it Marsha Langton, who clearly cannot keep on message and cannot sell their point of view to the Australian public, it turns people off. They don't want to vote for something that they see as extreme or is popular with extreme people. Australians simply want to do what they think is best for Indigenous people. And when they see stuff like that, they go, I'm not sure.
Just quickly before I leave you, Caleb, given you're in Sydney, what about these demands now from Sydney's LGBT community that Premier Minns must set up a voice-like advisory body up there for gay and trans people? I mean, this is what happens when you start to divide us into a whole lot of tribes and different groups based on identity. We lose what unites us, and it should be our parliament is where we have these conversations, not these multitude of advisory bodies, now one for gay people.
Oh, well, you know, next there'll have to be an advisory body on land rights for gay whales and left-handed people and whatever. Where does it end? I mean, surely the job of a minister, and this is the argument I've made about The Voice all along, is surely it's the job of the Indigenous Affairs Minister to be in contact with Indigenous people and consulting them constantly. Surely it is the job of any minister who is dealing with policy areas that relate to gay people or relate to religious people or any other group you want. It is their job to be constantly talking to people that those policies affect. You don't need some kind of advisory body that just sits over there waiting for you to come along to talk about it. That's your job as a minister. And if you can't do that, well, what are you doing?